According to data from YouTube, only a fraction of the people watching these videos are subscribed. So if you end up liking this video, subscribe. You can always unsubscribe at a later date. Hey again guys, it's been a while. A couple of months since my first post, and yeah, the response was crazy. But beyond that, the stuff that happened in the days, weeks, and months after that post, it's even more crazy. Crazier? More crazier? Whatever. You get it. But before I get started, I'm actually a chick. Apparently a lot of you figured I was a guy because my crush, now fully fledged girlfriend, was a girl. Apologies, I should have been more descriptive about my groin region in the last post. Anyway, here we go again. Alright, so a few days after the post, I saw a news report that unnerved the absolute hell out of me. As I was making my way through the neglected mountain of dirty dishes in the kitchen, I heard Jasmine call to me. She wanted me to come into the living room of my apartment. I started to ask her what she was carrying on about. But as I rounded the corner and the TV came into view, I stopped in my tracks, as the image of a burned shack in the middle of the woods glared at me from the screen. "Isn't that the..." Jasmine started to ask, but I cut her off before she could finish. "Did they say anything about the bodies?" "No, actually they said there was no sign of human remains. They're apparently looking for the..." She trailed off. I could tell she was thinking back to the men from that night. I might have made it seem like we just brushed it off in the first post, but it was pretty traumatizing for everyone involved. We had talked about it a little, as much as she could for as long as she could hold it together, at least. I took it upon myself to start taking a class to learn to protect myself. Not one of these cheesy, grab here while stepping here and striking here, women's defense courses though. I found a combat school ran by this big Australian bastard that has more of a take this pointy knife thingy and stab the fucker in the eye until he lets go approach. And that has some real appeal to me after everything that happened. I'm not much more badass than I was at the time, but I'm getting used to the idea of wrecking someone's shit at least. I'm still trying to convince Jasmine to come to the class with me, but I think the whole ordeal had a more introverting effect on her. Dex has decided to get into shape too, and I quote, "Protect you lady folk like a real man." I don't think Dex understands that the community at large has never seen him as a towering monument to masculinity, but at least he's getting healthy. He's taken up cycling. Incidentally, the most notable change in his appearance so far is that every other day he shows up with a new patch of road rash somewhere on his body. "You don't think there's anything there that'll lead them back to us, do you?" she asked worriedly. No, everything got burned. Besides, we didn't do anything wrong. Why would the police be looking for us?" I asked back. "I don't mean the police. I mean there might be other people who have something to do with that lab. What if they move the bodies and they come looking for us? How would they even find..." I began before being interrupted, as if by some form of divine orchestration, by a loud and assertive knock at the door. The apartment fell into a ringing silence. I began to slowly drag my feet towards the door, inch by inch, taking at least 3 times longer than it should have to finally get there. I began to reach out for the doorknob as another series of loud raps cracked through the quiet and caused me to convulse in shock. I turned to look back at Jasmine, whose hands were now fully clutched in front of her mouth as she watched me reach for the doorknob one more time with wide eyes. Taking a deep breath, I twisted the doorknob and cracked the door open just enough to peek out into the hallway. "Yo, Grubhub, got your tacos and quesadillas?" "Yep, quesadillas." "Jesus Christ, it's just the taco guy," I called to Jasmine, realizing we had both completely forgot about ordering food earlier. It wasn't until a few days later, as I closed the door to my room, after coming home from work, I heard a voice from behind me. "We need to talk," the voice said, causing me to nearly choke on my own tongue in surprise. I wheeled around to face the source of the noise to see a young man close to my age with deeply tanned skin, dark black hair, and stubble, and a red bandana tied around his head. His clothes were normal clothes, just put together weirdly. It was hard for me to place at the time. He had an old tattered red shirt underneath his even older black vest. His pants were baggy and frayed at the ankles where they'd been cut short to reveal his bare feet. A pirate? He looked like an effing pirate. There was a pirate in my apartment. I had an apartment pirate. "What? Why the fuck are you in my room?" I screamed as I yanked out the knife I had started keeping on me. "Whoa, take a chill pill there, Gamora. After all, you've already had my, The man paused as he produced a stack of papers from his back pocket and began to flip through them. Werewolf dong knocking against your exposed skin. What? Yeah. I figured that after having my dork on your leg, that's a few steps past me seeing your granny panties and lightsaber you got stashed in the top drawer. Plus, you kind of pissed yourself right in front of me, and God, and everyone else, so... I stood there in silence for a few seconds, my jaw hanging open in absolute confusion before shrieking, "You went through my stuff?" It's weird the places your mind can go in situations like that. Well, yeah, you don't go through people's stuff when you break into their bedrooms. I don't break into people's rooms, I shouted back at him. Wait, the werewolves? You're one of the werewolves, I said as all the gears in my brain finally started to line back up, allowing me to think like an actual rational person. Finally caught on, did ya? Took long enough. And here I came all this way and not even a hello. How you been? Thanks for saving me and all my friends from getting bobby-tripped and murdered in the middle of nowhere. No, why are you here? I interrupted at the top of my lungs. And why are you dressed like a pirate? I added. The gold hoop in his ear, accentuating his swashbuckling appearance, had only added to my frustration. First of all, that's very offensive. We prefer the term privateer Americans. And second, I'm here about this, he said, waving around the stack of papers he produced a few minutes ago. Your little story got pretty popular. The people that ran the drug operation are going to be looking for whoever fucked up their shit. And this is going to lead them right back to you as soon as they find it. And you can bet your ass the ones that run the show are a lot worse than the creeps you ran into out there. But how? I didn't even use my name the entire post, I asked, the anger and energy starting to ebb a little with his statement. You used all your friends' real names. Do you have any idea how easy it was to find out where someone with just the first names in social media? It took me like 3 hours after I found the post to find out who you were, and the other day to find exactly where you live. Look, he continued, pulling out his phone and swiping a few times before showing me the screen. You even accepted my friend request, jackass! I just stood there stunned for a few seconds. A dramatically different feeling from only a few moments before. My shock, anger, and mild embarrassment had been swapped for a deep sinking in the pit of my gut. I might have just led some very bad people back to me and my friends. And Jasmine. Taking a few more seconds to process everything, I finally began to speak again. I liked you better when you couldn't talk, I mumbled, staring at the ground in shame. And I liked you better when you were more grateful for me saving your ass. After a few seconds of shooting each other foul looks, I broke the quiet with, So where's the other one of you? She's taking care of a few things, then she'll be headed this way, he replied with a shit-eating grin. Until then, we just chill here, he said as he started to open the door and walk into the living room. Oh no, you're not camping out here in the living room, I exclaimed, jumping between him and the door. I am not explaining you to Steven, my roommate. Okay, your room it is, he said, walking across the room and plopping down on my bed, kicking his feet up as he did. Your feet are fucking filthy, I growled, noticing the blackened bottoms of his feet resting on my clean cabinet. Huh? What? He mumbled to himself, grabbing his ankle and pulling it up to check. Oh shit, you're right, he said as he wiped his nasty man paws on my blanket. There, how's that? He asked, proudly displaying his now slightly less dirty feet to me. I could tell he genuinely thought he had done something good by cleaning his feet on my blanket. He thought I was mad they were dirty, so he cleaned them to make me happy. I had more of an urge to scratch his ear than yell at him at that point. I looked at the sullied comforter and felt my eye twitch a little, and just decided to sit down by my office chair. Exactly how long are we supposed to be waiting? I groaned several hours later, through my hands I had been resting my face in for the past 90 minutes or so. Not much longer, he said, checking a wristwatch that was very obviously not there. Well, thanks for, helping again, and junk, I said with my chin still resting in my hands. Oh, don't get too excited. You got lucky last time. This one's gonna cost you, he said, laying his head back on my pillow. That's cryptic, I replied suspiciously. So, "What's your name?" I added. "Milo," he answered plainly. Oh, I laughed to myself, mildly disappointed that it wasn't some cliche underworld werewolf name like Lucian or Raz or something. About 10 more minutes passed before I heard Milo's phone chirp. He slid it out of his pocket and checked the screen. "That's her," he said, clumsily climbing out of bed. "They're at the front door." No, you stay. I'll go let her in," I said, hurriedly standing from my chair. Unfortunately, that didn't go well at all. Several hours of sitting with my elbows on my legs had given me major toilet lag, and as I stood, both of my now completely numb legs tried to fold backwards in on themselves. This caused my whole body to crumple face first into the hardwood floor of my room with a dull thud. I heard a loud cackle as Milo pressed his face into my pillow, kicking his feet with manic laughter. "Oh God, I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh. Are you okay?" he asked, still chuckling as tears rolled down his cheek. I shot him a hateful look as I wobbled to my feet. I somehow managed to baby deer walk across the apartment to the front door as the living hell of pins and needles began to set in. I cracked the door just to make sure who was there was actually there. As she came into view, I caught myself looking at what could have been the most gorgeous creature to ever walk the face of the earth. I slowly swung the door the rest of the way open, revealing her and all of her splendor. She had the thickest curly black hair that spun its way down past her shoulders and over her dark olive skin. Her eyes were light blue, and they seemed to go on forever, just like the clear sky on a sunny day at the beach. She was draped in clothes the same color and fashion as Milo, but infinitely more lavish and beautiful. She was about as inconspicuous as a Christmas Day parade. "Hello, my name is Tegan. It's nice to meet you again. My love, are you not well?" She spoke with the heaviest Eastern European accent I had ever heard, and even that was beautiful to my ears. She must have taken my moment of total unresponsive silence coupled with my erratic trembling legs as a form of illness. I don't think I had ever blushed so hard in my life. Suddenly Jasmine stepped between us with a scowl. "She's fine," she said sternly. "Come on, stud, so that we can all get in." "What are you... Who's all here?" I started trying to peek around the corner to no avail. "Everyone. Dex, Trey, Joanna, and Leslie. Tegan rounded us all up and brought us here. She told us who she was, and she'll explain everything once we get to your place." Not even attempting to resist at this point, I just put my finger over my mouth, gesturing for them to be quiet so I didn't disturb my roommate, then silently led the small crowd into my increasingly packed room. Coming in last, I managed to shove and elbow my way back to my chair and sat down as Milo began to explain the entirety and severity of the situation. "So, this wasn't just a social visit because you both missed us so much," Trey said sarcastically, breaking the silence that fell once Milo's exposition was over. Tegan quickly strolled over to him. "Oh no, my love, we've missed you very much as well. You are all such wonderful people," she exclaimed, hugging him tightly when she reached him. Apparently, she didn't catch the sarcasm as was attempting to comfort him. We all knew she was just being nice. But I think that we all chose to believe it on the grounds of the idea that the corporeal angel we were currently confined in the room with missed us, warmed our hearts. This woman oozed Mama Bear energy like you wouldn't imagine. "So we have a bunch of meth dealers about to go Walter White on our asses, and we're supposed to do what, exactly? Call the police?" Dex asked over Tegan's soothing hums as she rocked poor Trey in her arms as she continued to hug him comfortably. "No, it's not really that simple," Milo answered back. "They're not just meth dealers. They might kinda sorta be vampires."
"Vampires? Bullshit. Nope, you're just screwing with us again. Get out!"
I yelled, jumping from my chair. I had had enough. I was tired and hungry and ill-tempered, and everyone was in my room and I was over it. All I could think was the nerve it took them to pull some sort of shit like this after everything we'd already been through. "Okay, calmed," Milo started before I picked up the nearest heavy object and got ready to chuck it at his head. Hey! I was a 7-foot-tall murder pupper the first time you saw me. Would it be really going out on a limb to entertain the idea that vampires might just possibly be a thing?" He added, his hands out in front of him, ready to repel my impending attack. Hearing him call himself a 7-foot murder pupper made me crack up a grudging smile. Still holding the empty mug over my head, this gave me a second to actually remember that I had been considering the possibility of whatever other creatures might still exist. I mean, I guess, maybe, I said, placing the mug back down on my desk. Well, so how do vampires tie into all this shit? I continued, choking slightly on the word as it made its way up. Okay, you know how we add things to our food to make it taste better? Like butter and salt and pepper. Well, they like to do that too. And one of the ways they like to do that, one of their favorite ways, is meth. They get some poor schmuck spun out on the stuff, and then, right after their last hit, as they're on their last breath of life, they suck them dry like a meth head cocktail. The drug apparently affects the taste of blood in such a way that it, combined with the effects of the actual drug itself, is like total delicacy for them. It's kinda like how people do veal, just slightly less fucked up maybe. And selling the meth means they make hella cash whilst they take the snack packs to Flavor Town.
That's really messed up, Leslie spoke up. But what are we supposed to do? Can't you just, turn back into wolves and get rid of them? It is not so simple, my sweet darling. Turning into a wolf is not so easy as in movies and takes time and preparation.
What do you mean? Trey asked, having finally escaped Tegan's clutches. You know how in movies you see some dude morph into a giant wolf that's like twice as massive as he was as a regular person? Well, did you ever stop to think that all that extra mass needs to come from somewhere? To get that big, we need to eat that much and more beforehand. That shit doesn't just come out of nowhere. We have to collect it, eat it, store it, then change. So, me and Tegan need a place to, store, and before that, we need to figure out where they're operating so that we can get a plan and get ready. Also, we're going to need a lot of food. We're going to get rid of them for you, but we're going to need your help this go around.
You'll also need somewhere to stay, not home. Regular homes aren't safe. They'll find you there, and us if we stay too.
All of a sudden, every eye was on me. In confusion, I looked over my shoulders, hoping there would be someone with an actual idea standing behind me. There wasn't. So I said the only thing I could think of. I could call Gay Jake.